What's going on, guys? Aaron from Top Tier Gaming here, and today I want to talk about one of my favorite hand traps that is sort of, I think, coming back into the format slightly, but it's still really under the radar right now. And it hasn't really seen like a huge amount of play in a long time, but in all of my testing recently, and when you look at the format from afar, I think this card is absolutely phenomenal, and I just want to talk about how it sort of relates to the meta and how you can use it to improve your Yu-Gi-Oh game. Before we get into it, I do want to talk about a few things. So I'm actually going to be moving soon, and that's going to involve me finally getting like an office where I can make better Yu-Gi-Oh content, because I'll have its own space to record instead of like the box I'm currently living in. So I'm currently like recording a lot of videos so I can have it uploading regularly while I'm making the move. So that is something I just want to let my subscribers know, because uploads might be a little irregular during that time. But yeah, also Discord link down below along with all of our other social media links if you want to check that out. And if you want to support the channel and help us with what we do here, you can like and subscribe for future Yu-Gi-Oh content. Without further ado, let's start talking about this hand trap. So the card I'm actually talking about today is Fantastical Dragon Phantazmay. So this card, obviously in the past formats, has been, a really good, staple hand trap in some formats even, like thinking on older Dragon Link format, Sky Striker format, even like way back. Phantazmay has seen his time in the sun, but for a while now he's been really under the radar, if in any deck at all. And that's because we were in some formats where maybe links weren't as prevalent in like every deck. I mean, you think about, Sky Striker format or Toss format, every deck is linking, and that's what made Phantazmay so good. And I feel like for a while we just haven't had that. Like there's been times where Virtual World's been meta and they don't link almost at all, although Virtual World now is actually linking to do Auroradon combo, and Auroradon combo with like Hauki Fibrax, or just Hauki Fibrax even, is a big talking point for why I think Phantazmay is actually good, but not the main point. So Phantazmay, if you don't know what the card does, when your opponent link summons, you can special summon it, draw cards equal to how many links your opponent controls +1, and then shuffle cards from your hand back to the deck equal to how many links they control. Now, let's look at the format from afar. There's a big deck that, I say big deck, the biggest decks right now would be like Based, and like Phantom Knights, and Phantom Knights aren't doing the most like competitively. I think they're a really, really strong deck, but competitively they haven't been, as strong as everyone initially thought. But Phantom Knights are still very predominant at the local level and higher. There is Sword Soul, which is actually linking now because they choose to go into Hauki Fibrax. So all three of those decks are either making Hauk or a ton of links in the form of Phantom Knights. If you catch Phantom Knights that are running the Graph and Seer package, you can actually catch them very easily where they have 2 links on field. But these decks have sort of always been able to be hit by Phantazmay. I should include Striker here because Striker has been seeing a good amount of success, so yeah, Phantazmay is obviously very good against Sky Striker. But even decks in the past that are reasons you wouldn't run Phantazmay, like Eldritch, are now reasons to run Phantazmay. Most Eldritch lists, if not almost all, have sort of shifted to the Cyberse Eldritch deck from a lot of what I've seen. And Cyberse Eldritch have a point in their, Cyberse combo where they always have 2 links, being the Disciple and the Devotee, and you can go and get some very powerful extra cards off Phantazmay. And yeah, so a lot of decks this format are actually summoning link monsters that you can summon Phantazmay against, get your draws, and there's a couple of decks where his actual targeting effect comes in pretty in handy. It's obviously very good versus Sky Striker. But a deck that's been up and coming in Plunder Patrol actually have such a hard time with Phantazmay. All of their cards target, not only does Plunder Patrol have to link into their Blackbeard, but their cards target their Moark, specifically Moark because Phantazmay is a dark, that's the one they're often going to make. And they can't really use the effect optimally because Phantazmay will just negate it. But also like their trap card targets, so Phantazmay being on the board is actually such a huge problem for them. But what is Phantazmay actually for, right? So you're not actually usually running this card because the protect from targeting is really good. You're usually running it to fix your hand or gain additional go second cards. So like when your opponent summons Verte Anaconda, you can special, Phantazmay, draw into Effect Veiler, and that's like really good. So that's what you're usually using it for. It can also put bricks back, like, DPE pieces, Fateful Adventure, what's the Draco back. Like, there's a lot of bricks and a lot of decks right now where Phantazmay is just particularly good. Now, to sort of talk on some of the downsides before I go into, I think, deciding properly whether or not you should actually run Phantazmay, to talk about some downsides, because this card isn't 100% foolproof. Otherwise, it would be staple and not something under the radar that I think is actually coming back a little bit. Floowandereeze is definitely a big downside of Phantazmay right now. But it's the only deck, in my opinion, besides like Trap Eldritch, that isn't linking right now. Like, almost every Sword Soul variant is linking at this point, be it through Monk or Halki Fibrax, and that was a deck that didn't link previously as much. Eldritch is linking now. Prank Kids are meta, and they're linking, and it's pretty good versus Prank Kids. Floowandereeze is like the only deck in the room that Phantazmay's dead against, so that is something you have to keep in mind. It doesn't work against everything this format, but this is the first time in a long time I feel like 90% of the decks you're going to play you're able to summon Phantazmay and have it be effective. Another downside about Phantazmay, in my opinion, is even though you can summon Phantazmay to draw into a hand trap that could stop something like Verte Anaconda, if you happen to not see an out to Verte, DPE actually just gets like a free pop into Phantazmay, because, you know, Phantazmay is really good because it can provide some board presence for your next turn, be it to extra link fodder into something like Dark, because he is a Dark monster, or have that targeting protection effect, or just like a 2400 beat stick. Him being on field is good, and your opponent freely being able to pop it with Destroy Phoenix Enforcer is a little annoying, and that is a downside to Phantazmay, because it will help them play around cards like Super Poly if you're on it, or help them set up their Scythe combo potentially even more. It's not like a big downside, I think, because most of the time Phantazmay does its job when it fixes your hand to see like the hand you actually want to have when going second. So that's something else. One more thing, I think that's pretty much all I want to say about the downsides of Phantazmay. There aren't many. I think this card is actually just really good, and I've been testing with him a lot, and he's been fantastic for me and my entire group of friends that have been testing him. We've all just loved how good Phantazmay is. One thing I do want to mention that's sort of like a side topic is the Brave engine is really popular right now, but because they're always afraid of Nibiru or actually impactful hand traps, Phantazmay pretty much always is able to resolve against them. They're not going to Griffin negate Phantazmay almost ever. I have still not seen it happen after a lot of my testing, and that's because, you know, Prank Kids, when they summon Griffin and then they prank into their link and you summon Phantazmay, there's just no way they actually negate Phantazmay when you could have Nibiru in your hand, right? So, and that's, you know, sort of the reason why I think Phantazmay is like additionally good, is he's always going to do something into the Brave engine. He's going to fix your hand to maybe help play against it. Maybe you draw into Ogre or something very good against their engine, right? So now talking about why you would choose to run Phantazmay when there's so many hand trap options, you only have so many slots. What decks are running Phantazmay, and how do you sort of fix your deck to run Phantazmay if you want to play it? Phantazmay is an interesting card because he sort of limits what hand traps you play with him, but also makes the hand traps you play with him a lot better. So I run Phantazmay in my Dragon Maid deck, and the reason I run Phantazmay in my Dragon Maid list is because, you know, he's a level 5 or higher dragon, so it works with my engine, and I think if he works in your engine, you should possibly be playing him. I think he's really good in Dragon Link for the same reason, so if you're a Dragon Link player, I think he's a really good option. Level 5 or higher Dark Dragon, I mean, that's usually just going to come up. So yeah, I mean, if he's in your engine, I think that's a reason to play him. But your hand trap lineup has to change with him, in my opinion. Nibiru with Phantazmay is just absolutely golden, right? I mean, these two have been partners in hand trap lineups for a while. There was a point in Dragon Link meta like half a year ago or a year ago where like people were just running 6 hand traps, and it was 3 Phantazmay, 3 Nibiru, because Nibiru was the only hand trap sort of impactful enough to warrant drawing into at one point in that meta. And so Phantazmay again has just been Nibiru's best partner. So if you want to run Nibiru, like, Phantazmay is great with him, but Phantazmay can also draw the hand traps that work great with Nibiru. So cards like Effect Veiler and Ghost Ogre, I think, pair very nicely with Phantazmay and Nibiru, because of course your opponent is setting up their Brave engine, which would mean like their full board plus Griffin, right? So if you can Nibiru, they try to Griffin effect to negate Nibiru, and you Veiler it or you Ghost Ogre it, Nibiru's a board wipe, their board's gone. So I really like these specific hand traps with Nibiru. I love Ogre, I love Veiler, I love, Ash and Bell. They're just, generically really good to draw Phantazmay because they're not specific to your board. But hand traps like Gamma and Imperm, they do take a hit when you run Phantazmay. So if you're going to choose to run that card, you do have to adjust. Maybe you swap out Imperms for Effect Veiler, even though that plays kind of into talents. You can't use Imperm with Phantazmay on the field, and same thing with Gamma. So some things to consider there. But also, another thing about Phantazmay is also how he's just sort of good at drawing your other Ghost second cards. They don't have to be hand traps. Like currently, I'm playing Phantazmay and Super Poly in my Dragon Maid main deck. And when Phantazmay sees Super Poly, I just feel so good because I know Super Poly's an absolute blowout going second against so many decks. That Phantazmay seeing a powerful Ghost second card like that is just amazing. And of course, his ability to fix hands for your decks that may need, maybe you don't have as many starters in your deck as you want or enough extenders. Phantazmay can help, tune your hand to exactly what you need. And when so many decks in the meta are able to have Phantazmay summoned against them, I mean, he's just been testing so well for me and everyone in my friend group that I think Phantazmay is actually really good this format. Is he like the best hand trap? No, but I do think he's warranting maybe in like your thought process when you go into deciding your hand trap lineup this format. And I just wanted to talk about him because I've been enjoying him thoroughly. All of my friends have been like, oh yeah, Phantazmay is the spice. We have to play Phantazmay. So that's going to do it for this video. If you did enjoy, leave your thoughts down below, subscribe, like this video. Let me know what you guys think of Phantazmay. Have you been testing him? Are you going to consider testing him? Again, there's only one deck in the room I think he's bad against, and that is floowandereeze. Against everything else, you're at least going to be able to fix your hand. And of course, if he is an engine requirement, or not an engine requirement, but if he is an engine card like he is in my Dragon Maid list, of course, he's really good there. So that's what I want to talk about Phantazmay. I think he's an up-and-coming hand trap who's actually pretty good this format. That's going to do it for me. Hope you guys enjoyed. This has been Aaron from Top Tier Gaming. Bye, YouTube.